Hey everybody, I'm JJ. You're watching Reality Survival. Today we're going to talk about an article from the Los Angeles Times, and warning, I might be a little snarky in this one. Let's see. This article it's completely outrageous in my opinion, and I don't even know how it's possible that the author Sammy Roth, who's a staff writer for the Los Angeles Times, could possibly write this and think that it's okay. But it's interesting nonetheless. So we're going to go through it. But before I do, I want to show you guys this SE6. This is the knife that I'm going to be giving away on this month's giveaway over on Substack. realitysurvival.substack.com. All you got to do is sign up to be a paid subscriber and you can get in on it. I think we've only got like 65 paid subscribers or something like that at the time right now, and so your chances of winning are going to be like 1 in 65, right? It's going to be a random draw, and you know, who knows who's going to get it, but it's only going to be one of you 65, right? So check it out. I've got specials going on right now. You can sign up for those over on Substack. I think you can get the membership for like $40 a year, and we're going to be doing giveaways every month. So check that out. I think that'll be pretty cool. But if you don't want to do the paid membership, you can also do a free membership, and that'll just allow me to email you like a weekly update or whatever of all the videos that come out, and so you can have them in your inbox and you can know that they got published, because YouTube hides them and all that kind of stuff. I mean, my channel, I'm not one of those guys that complains publicly very often about YouTube suppressing the channel, but whatever it is that I'm saying lately, they don't like very much at all, because I've got over 100,000 subscribers, and you can look at the view counts on the videos. My videos are only getting 200 or 300 views in a lot of cases, so it's almost not even worth doing. But if we get enough people to go over to Substack, then I can shoot those emails to you and you can see them. So that's the goal there. Okay, so let's get into this article, because it's just insane to me. So LA Times, title of the article is under the climate and environment section. They say, would an occasional blackout help to solve climate change? Now, so essentially, and I would not be surprised if this is something that catches on and that we start to hear more and more about. Well, maybe we just need, for the sake of climate change and to save the planet, we need to be willing to live with some power outages here in this country, right? That's the compassionate thing to do. It wouldn't hurt you to be without power for a couple of hours a day, would it? Right? Well, let's get into this article. It's really interesting. So, what's more important, they say, and I'm just reading a few key highlights from the article. There's plenty of idiocy in here that I'm not reading, but I'm just hitting the highlights. What's more important, keeping the lights on 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, or solving the climate crisis? It's a highly technical dispute, but it's part of a larger conversation about how much blackout risk we consider acceptable in modern society, and whether our expectations should evolve in the name of preventing climate catastrophe. These people, it makes me want to scream. Governor Gavin Newsom facing a recall effort and wanting to avoid the fate of his predecessor, Gray Davis, who was voted out of office after an energy crisis suspended air quality rules to make it easier to run polluting backup generators. The next summer, Newsom issued a similar order preemptively allowing gas plants to exceed air pollution limits during electric grid emergencies. And so this is from July 20th, 2023. So it was talking about the past with Newsom. Let's see here. Again and again, I found myself asking, would it be easier and less expensive to limit climate change and its deadly combination of worsening heat, fire, and drought and flood if we were willing to live with the occasional blackout? But our short and medium term futures are more tricky. And in the great irony of the climate era, increasingly extreme weather driven by fossil fuels has made those gas plants more valuable than ever. So they're starting to realize we can't keep shutting down our gas plants, our natural gas powered plants, because the grid is so unstable with solar and wind that we're not going to be able to have power on a regular basis. So they are at least starting to acknowledge that. But then they go on and say, but absent major breakthroughs in carbon capture technology, we'll eventually need to shutter most, if not all, those gas plants to avoid disastrous temperature jumps. Scientists say we'll need to cut carbon pollution nearly in half by 2030. Could we get started ditching gas sooner and save money by accepting a few more blackouts for the next few years? A former member of the LA Department of Water and Power Board Commission LA Department of Water and Power's Board of Commissioners wrote, quote, someone dies every time we have a power outage. So they know that people die because of power outages. But they go on. Those of us lucky enough to have air conditioning depend on it to stay safe from heat waves, which can already kill thousands of people and are only going to get more dangerous as fossil fuels warm the planet. So they know that thousands of people can die because of heat waves. They still just want to stop all that evil air conditioning, though. It's not really about keeping the lights on, it's about keeping people alive, Morris said. Yeah, that's because electricity does keep a lot of people alive, especially in desert areas, especially in very cold areas. I mean, it's unbelievable that they have to have an expert come on and say this for them. There's another compelling argument for taking aggressive steps to avoid even a slight uptick in outages. Americans really hate blackouts, and faced with more of them, even people concerned about climate change might turn against clean energy. Oh my goodness, they're worried about people changing their opinions. The idea that solar farms and wind turbines will never supply reliable electricity has become popular right-wing talking point. That's because it won't. It can't everywhere. Solar might be okay in the desert, and wind might be okay in some windy areas for some aspects of it, but it can't replace the entire grid. Not at this point, not with this technology we have. Let's see. Those fossil fuel funded lies shouldn't inform our decision making, but they contain a kernel of truth, which is that the U.S. power grid isn't yet capable of running entirely on climate-friendly electricity 24 hours a day, 365 a year. Okay, you also need to understand that solar and wind is not climate-friendly at all. It's really not. You should look into how all those panels have to be disassembled when they're past their service life and what they can do with them, how costly it is and how dangerous to the environment it is and how it leaches chemicals out and yada, 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 yada. There's tons and tons of information that talks about how dangerous solar and wind are when it comes to the environment. The number of birds that get killed in wind strikes and stuff like that. Like there's serious problems with these things. If we were really serious about climate change and climate, wanting to worry about the climate and reduce fossil fuels and all that kind of stuff, we would be doing nuclear, right? It's so apparent that it's so much safer, especially with new technology. Okay. Let's see. Not capable of running the electricity 24 hours a day, 365 a year. Does that mean that we should be willing to accept even a few more hours of blackouts if it means burning less gas? They just keep repeating this thing. And then this guy from the board says they didn't sign up for clean, affordable, and a less reliable grid. He said they signed up for a clean, reliable, and affordable grid, which affordable is even questionable at this point. On balance, I think Rothletter and Mora are right. This is her little consolation that she says here. We should do everything we can as a society, or he, whatever it is, whoever it is, to add solar panels, wind turbines, and all kinds of energy storage to the grid as fast as possible. To the extent those additions allow the closure of fossil-fueled power plants, awesome. The sooner the better. But closing them too soon could bring its own kind of disaster. Here we go. After reporting on the clean energy for most of the last decade, I've increasingly come to the conclusion that solving climate change will require sacrifices, even if only small ones, for the sake of the greater good. Listen, anytime you hear anybody say, for the sake of the greater good, you really need to be concerned about what they're saying. And you really need to listen to the details about what their plans are. Because that term, I mean, that is just, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? And it usually, that march usually starts with, for the sake of the greater good. So those might include lifestyle changes such as driving less or eating less meat. What? No, not eating less meat. Not going to happen. Maybe learning to live with more power outages shouldn't be one of the sacrifices, but at the same time, we might not have a choice. We might have to let some people die, basically is what she's saying, or he's saying, or whatever. The idea of accepting less dependable electric grid is uncomfortable for a lot of people because they correctly point out you may end up in situations where the wealthier you are, the more you're able to buy your way out of the reliability problem, Gruber said. Think rooftop solar panels paired with a battery in a garage or a backup diesel generator. I've talked to you guys about this many times. I don't know if you're wealthy and if you're able to do that or not, but you absolutely need to be concerned about your ability to generate your own electricity on your property. I don't know if it's going to be a big problem this year or next year or the next year, but probably within the next 5 to 10 for sure, 5 to 10 years for sure, we are likely to have less grid reliability here in the U.S. And I mean this on a pretty serious and pretty big scale. There's a ton of money that's been put out there for subsidies in solar and wind, and the people are going to spend it. There's big companies right now who are hiring lots of attorneys and all that kind of stuff, and they are spending that money to get solar and wind installed. It's happening quickly. The problem is it's not reliable, and it's going to have, the consequences of this are going to be that our grid will be less reliable. So you've got to be able to produce your own power. That's why I'm talking about this subject. That's why I'm talking to you guys about this, because it's a significant issue that is going to come down the pipe at some point. Who knows exactly when, but it's coming. All right, we'll go on here. That's why it's crucial, Gruber said, for government to be ready to protect society's most vulnerable when it's hot and the power goes out. So notice, they don't say that they want you to protect yourself. They're saying they want the government to be ready to protect you. So what does that mean? Does that mean that the government's going to say, oh, well, this is the poor side of town, so their power is not going to go out, and the wealthy side of town, they can deal with it, so we're going to put that power out? What about the people in the middle? What about, this government should not be in the business of deciding who gets power. This is a bad idea. There are conversations to be bad about how you fail gracefully. That's what this Gruber guy said, who's the electricity expert. How do you fail gracefully? They're planning that we will fail, that the grid will fail, and this is a big deal. The less we fail, the better. But Gruber thinks there could be additional benefits from planning for failure. Okay. Even if those, let's see here, he said, the better we are at keeping people safe during blackouts, for instance, the easier it would be to figure out if there are cheaper, faster paths to 100% climate-friendly energy. even if those paths involve slightly higher tolerance for blackout risk than we have today. Again, they are acknowledging that there are going to be more blackouts. Is it realistic to think that shifting our expectations for reliability could help us tackle the climate crisis? Shifting our expectations. That's key phrase there. It's worth checking, he says. Let's see if we got anything else here. Indeed, solving climate change isn't as simple as replacing gas and coal plants with power or with solar and wind farms. We need to get, listen to how stupid they are. Okay, I'll explain it in a second, but listen how dumb they are. We need to get tens of millions of electric vehicles on the road and tens of millions of electric heat pumps in people's homes. Okay. So they're already acknowledging that the grid isn't stable as it is with the amount of solar and wind that's there. And they know that they're going to be putting more in. They're talking about that. But at the same time, they also want to increase the drain on the grid exponentially by adding tens of millions of electric vehicles to the road. Do you understand how stupid that is? And tens of millions of electric heat pumps. If it can't make power for where we are now, how is it possibly going to be able to make power when it's having to charge all those millions of vehicles? I mean, oh my God, it's so maddening. Anyway, whatever. It's just electricity, right? Let's see. Oh, this is another one here, yeah. At least there are many clean energy advocates who think so. And they're pushed for a coordinated Western electric grid in which California could more easily tap into low-cost wind power from Wyoming, for instance, to get a boost. For instance, they got a boost late last week when state officials from Arizona, California, New Mexico, Oregon, and Washington announced a new effort to create an independent agency to govern electricity markets across the region. So look, I don't know how that's all going to work out. Well, I mean, I could make a pretty good guess. All the rural area states who have some production capability in excess are going to push it to California, and they're going to end up having a less stable grid. And those people will also pay more, because anytime you get a regulatory body involved in anything, it's going to cost more, guaranteed. So if you live in those states, you can anticipate that your electric bills are going to go up. I promise that. Let's see. Critics within California have said the state shouldn't cede control of its energy system to a regional body that might be more likely to favor fossil fuels. Okay, well, somebody has a little bit of common sense there. Anyway, that is that. The reason, like I said, the reason I'm bringing this up to you guys, not just to show how stupid some people are out there in the world, but it's also to let you know that these people are influential. And there are people who will read this article and think, wow, what a great article. That's a really good point. I mean, you know, if we knew that power was going to go out ahead of time, we could probably handle a couple of hours or whatever the case may be. The absurdity of the whole thing is that we're dismantling the most stable power grid in the world so that we can save the planet, all right? Which it isn't even saving the planet. It is really, when you break all this stuff down, I recommend that you read the book Apocalypse Never by Michael Schellenberger. He does an excellent job of exposing how evil this whole climate crisis is. I'm not going to get into it other than that, but it's an excellent book, and it really just describes how nefarious this whole plot is, and so I highly recommend that you take a look at that. Okay, so if you are concerned with being able to produce your own power, I want to talk to you guys real fast about, before I go, about griddown.com. They have a system called the Redoubt, which is a 13.5 kilowatt hour system. It's also got EMP shields included on it, so it will be hardened against electromagnetic pulses and coronal mass ejections, as well as lightning. And this system has a 25-year warranty. It's a lithium-ion system. What is the exact? It's the lithium iron phosphate battery, the Life PO4 battery. Again, 13.5 kilowatts. It's got 2 EMP shields on the DC side, 2 EMP shields on the AC side. It's eligible for a 30% tax rebate. And I can save you, I think it's like $1,100 off of the system if you use the discount code Reality Survival. Total cost of the system is about $15,699. So it is expensive, but this system will allow you to charge with solar. You can charge with a generator. You can charge from the grid when the grid is up. It'll take any kind of input, basically. And I think it's a really, really good system. And the cool part about that is there's free shipping, number one, and it's made here in America. The whole thing, like all of it. The batteries, the whole deal is all made in America. So really cool. Take a look at it. It's a partnership between EMP Shield and Lion Energy, and I think it's the best thing going. Take a look and see what you think for yourself. You can go to griddown.com and check it out. Now they have expanded systems that are a lot larger as well. You know, and this is the cream of the crop. This is like, you know, a really great system that's gonna take care of probably any of your own energy production needs, especially if you pair it with solar and or a generator. And it's a lot of money. I understand that it's a lot of money, but it's an excellent system, and I think you might consider it if you're worried about it. Especially if you live in one of those areas where they're going with it really heavy with a lot of green power and everything. This is definitely something to consider. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to click the thumbs up button, share with your friends, and don't forget to live the 6 Ps. Proper prior preparation prevents poor performance. Stay safe.